There's plenty of space. Don't be shy. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm David Goldsmith, and I am a member here, and it was my pleasure to have worked here for 10 wonderful years. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to kind of zip through this service fairly quickly, more singing than reading. And then I'm going to do something a little different. When I would substitute for Rabbi Romer or Rabbi Kohler, I always thought to myself, this is an opportunity to be a little more creative, a little more spontaneous. You'll see. We begin on page 1 with Hine Ma Tov. Hine Ma Tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Ma Tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Ma Tov, Hine Ma Tov, ya la la, ya la 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 la. Hine Ma Tov, Hine Ma Tov, ya la la, ya la 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 la. Hine Ma Tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Ma Tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Ben Azai used to say, do not scorn any man, do not discount anything, for there is no man who has not his hour and no thing that has not its place. Let us turn now to page 2, the open door. Let us read together. May the door to this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for a connection. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, and hopes to nurture. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, a doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Now let us light the candles, and I call upon Grace for the candle lighting on page 4. It's on. It's on.
As we kindle the lights of Shabbat, may the world be filled with warmth and radiance. May our hearts be filled with hope and joy. May our minds be filled with wisdom and understanding. And may our lives be filled with love and peace.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Top of page 5 is our traditions to say what good things happened this week, things that we can be thankful for. Does anyone have something that they would like to share?
I saw it though, and her 2 babies the other day.
She's going to be a great grandma. Right now, she's just average, but she's going to be great. Yes, Ron. You know, by the way, since I watch this more than I am here, I will say that when we do this, no one can hear you. I mean, really. So maybe I should have repeated everything, you know, to the wide audience that's watching. All three. Paige, is there anything else? Good news, good news. Looking for good news. We need good news. I can't think of any for myself. Shechechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen. Now, at the bottom of page 5, the responsive reading, I will start. Ben Zoma used to say, "Who is wise? Those who strive to learn something from every person." Who is strong? Their negative inclination. Who is rich? Those who are satisfied with what they have. Who is honorable? To consistently honor fellow human beings. Now let us turn to page 6 for Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad Ushemo echad L'shemu tiferet v'litila Lecha Dodi Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki hi makor habracha Merosh mikedem nisucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Hidorari, Kivarech kumiori, uri, shir daberi, kavod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise and face the door. Bo'i v'shalom ateret ba'ala, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. You may be seated. Let us turn now to page 8. And let us read together the top of the page, the characteristics of the wise. There are 7 things that characterize a wise man. A wise man does not speak before one who is greater than him in wisdom or age. He does not interrupt his fellow's words. He does not rush to answer. His questions are on the subject and the answers to the point. He responds to first things first and later things later. Concerning what he did not hear, he says, I did not hear. He concedes to the truth. With the boar, the reverse of all these is the case. I first read that as boot. Yeah, there's 7 things that distinguish a boot. Anyhow, page 8 for the Borchu, please rise. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. You may be seated. Let us read on page 9. Let us read together the awareness of blessings at the bottom of the page. By the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm picking out only things that are in Pirkei Avot, which I think is one of the most preeminent sources of being a mensch that there is. Let's read together. Beloved, Rabbi Akiba used to say, beloved is man, for he was created in the image of God. It is a sign of even greater love that it has been made known to him that he was created in the God's image. As the scripture says, for in the image of God he made man. Beloved is the people of Israel, for they are called the children of Israel. It is a sign of even greater love that it has been made known to them that they are called children of God. As scripture says, you are children of Adonai, your God. Beloved, again, is the people of Israel, for they were given a precious gift. It is a sign of even greater love that it has been made known to them, and they were given this gift. As scripture says, I have given you a good purchase. My Torah, do not forsake it. Let us turn the page for the Shema. The Shema is it is not a prayer. Shema is a statement of faith. And it's funny, some congregations you go to, everyone sits. And in some congregations, everyone stands. So I'm going to leave it. In the congregation I do on Saturday mornings, everyone sits. But then again, most of them are in their 90s. Let us, page 10, Shema. You may rise if you feel like it. Ma Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'yohavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol miodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivdecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shachbecha v'kumecha, u'kshartam liot al yadecha, v'hayu letatafot b'neinecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'isharecha. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem emet. You may be seated. Let us now turn to the top of page 12 and read. This is also from Pirkei Avot. Let's read together. Samuel the Small used to say, "When your enemy falls, do not rejoice. When he stumbles, let your heart not be gladdened. It is displeasing in God's eyes." What wisdom there is in Pirkei Avot. Now we turn to Micha Mocha in the middle of page 13. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la ya la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Micha mocha ba elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedor b'kodesh, norah tehilot osefele, norah tehilot osefele. And on page 14, a person should endeavor to be as pliant as a reed and never unyielding like the cedar. Now, V'shambru. V'shambru v'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. What is hateful, Rabbi Hillel once said, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow human being. That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Now go and learn it. Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa used to say, one who is pleasing to his fellow human beings is pleasing to God. But one who is not pleasing to his fellow human beings is not pleasing to God. And on the top of page 15, Akavia ben Mahalal used to say, know where you came from and where you're going. And then this very famous one, and I actually have a piece of art in my home with this on it. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Except with me, it's if not now, later. Okay. The Amida, I'll vote on page 15. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my life may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Goel Lifnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Page 16. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Michaye HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Michakel Chaim B'Chesed, Michaye HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim. So Mech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al gevurot umidom melach melech memit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ato l'hachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye HaKol. You may be seated. And now for the next few moments is a time for personal prayer. You know, kids ask me sometimes, does God still speak to people? And the answer to that is yes, we're just too noisy to hear him, because God is described as a still small voice. So this is the time to make your personal prayers, your prayers of thanksgiving, your prayers for peace, whatever is in your heart, pray it now. May the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts find favor before you, our rock and our Redeemer. Bottom of page 16, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav, al Yisroel Amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav, al Yisroel Amcha, tasim ve'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisroel Amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisroel Amcha, tasim leolam. Tov v'anecha levarech et Amcha Yisroel b'chol eru v'chol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisroel Amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisroel Amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Many years ago, before I was the education director at Bethel, I was the second grade teacher, and I was given a curriculum that was basically the life of Moses. And I hated it. The textbook was terrible. So I actually came up with 26 episodes of Moses. I would assume Moses' identity. And I'll tell you what, I was all set to put on my Moses suit, but I am schwitzing so bad right now, I don't want another 3 layers of clothes. But I will tell you, I would be transformed. And I studied Moses. I studied everything about him, including, by the way, if you don't know, did you know that Sigmund Freud actually wrote a book about Moses? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, Moses and Monotheism is what it was called. And it was by Sigmund Freud. So, Sigmund Freud has been psychoanalyzed. The thing about Moses that is so rich is that he's so human. Unlike the founders of other religions, Moses has his flaws. And when I did my Moses impersonation, my voice was very different, including the speech impediment. And now, God bless, we have a president who has battled the speech impediment. Moses also, we have seen several times his temper. We've seen it. Did Moses really want to do the job as the one to lead Israel out into the wilderness? He didn't want it. He made at the burning bush, he made excuse after excuse why he shouldn't do it. It was almost like, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve. But he did. And now, when they finally were freed from Egypt, what was the first thing they did after they crossed the sea? No, I know, they sang Micha Mocha. But they were thirsty already. They just crossed the sea and they were thirsty. And so the first thing they did was kvetch. By the way, if anyone here does not know what the word kvetch is, I love this word because it's so onomatopoeic. Kvetch, 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 kvetch. Yiddish is such a great language. Anyhow, but it was one thing after another. They were thirsty. Is that a legitimate kvetch? Yeah. If you're thirsty, you need water. If another time they were thirsty, God told him, see that rock over there? Tap that rock. So Moses tapped the rock and water flowed out. It was a miracle. The people were hungry, and God provided manna. But then even that wasn't enough, and God said, people said, that's all we have is manna. Kvetch, kvetch, kvetch. And so God said, I will provide enough meat for them that it will come out of their nose. And by the way, that expression comes from the Torah. It really does. I did not know that until, I don't know. So it was one thing after another. Now, last week, the Torah portion was Korach. And, they say the Torah, you should read it and read it again, turn it and turn it again, everything's in it. Korach was an insurrection. I mean, that was an insurrection. It's not a word I've ever used to describe Korach, but yeah, that's what it was. Of course, the hard thing for most of us who believe in democratic government was that we would have really sided with Korach, if the truth be known, because he wanted more democracy. And Moses says, no, this is God's will, this is what God said, only we can speak to God. I hate to make Moses sound like a dictator, but it was a theocracy. Am I right? Anyone want to argue that point with me?
It was needed then.
Huh?
It was needed back then.
It was needed. Well, it's still needed. I mean, there had to be laws. Remember that when they left Egypt, they weren't one people. They were actually 12 tribes, and the 12 tribes were actually different people, and there were others with them for the ride. Now, if I were to put on my Moses outfit, I would act out this Torah portion, but I'm going to read it instead in the English. The children of Israel, the whole congregation, came to the wilderness of Zin in the first month. By the way, what is the first month? Believe it or not, it's Nisan, the month of Passover. it is not Tishrei. In the Bible, it was Nisan. And the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. That's the whole death scene of Miriam. And there was no water for the congregation. And they assembled themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. Another insurrection. And the people strove with Moses and spoke, saying, "Would that we had perished when our brethren perished before the Lord," referring to the 250 men that were swallowed by the earth, Korach supporters. "And why have you brought the assembly of the Lord unto this wilderness, to die here, us and our cattle? Wherefore have you made us come out of Egypt to bring us unto this evil place? It is no place for seed or figs or vines or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink." Fetch, 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 but legitimate? Yeah, sure. "And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly into the door of the tent of the meeting and fell upon their faces. And the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take your rod and assemble the congregation, you and your brother Aaron, and speak to the rock before their eyes, that it give forth its water, and you shall bring forth to them water out of the rock, and you shall give the congregation and their cattle drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded them. And Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock, and he said unto them, Hear now, you rebels, are we to bring you forth water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and he smote the rock. No, I will not hit this. Sometimes, if it was the old one, I would have done it. And the congregation, and abundant water came out, and the congregation drank, and so did their cattle. Okay. What did Moses do wrong?
He hit, not smoke. Instead of talking to it, he hit it.
Okay. So it was disobeying. There was something else in there that was very subtle. He said, and I'll quote, yeah, exactly. And he said, he took the credit. It was arrogance. It was arrogance. Moses, and by the way, that's why you don't see Moses' name in the Haggadah. It's not there. Now, the Haggadah that we use here has Moses in it, but a traditional Haggadah does not have Moses. The only indirect reference in a traditional Haggadah is to the rod. Okay. There is, we've looked a lot at leadership lately in this country. We have had, the last two presidents have been such different people. I mean, extreme opposites, At what point, of all the wisdom that we read, and it says, who is wise? One who learns from other people. At what point does pride, false pride, and arrogance take over? And at what point does the good of the community start in? It's a good question. And I'm not here to start a political discussion. I think we've had enough of that. But I've never looked at this Torah portion quite the same way because of everything that's going on now. Really, it's turn it and turn it again. It's all in there. As you may know, and I won't be long, as a matter of fact, I'm running ahead because I didn't have to put on my outfit. As you may know, I have for the last 5-6 years done the services at Beth Shalom. Beth Shalom has had a really rough time, as has all senior facilities. But I will tell you, I love doing it. It's funny, someone said, why are you doing it? You did so well with kids. I said, yeah, working with kids used to make me feel young. And then I got to the point of my life that I'd rather be around 90-year-olds that make me feel young. So anyhow, but it's true. Some of you, I had the last few years of his life, Rabbi Kohler, and some of the older congregants certainly remember Rabbi Kohler. He and Peggy would come to service. And Rabbi Kohler was very deep in the throes of dementia. He could not carry on a decent conversation, really couldn't. But when he came in and I started singing, he'd be right there with me. And I have a person now who is in my little congregation who is the same way. There's something about these prayers that sticks with you somehow. Even in your old age, it sticks with you. Anyhow, it's my pleasure to be here. I know I've been kind of a stranger, and I'm sorry. But I pay my dues. Okay. By the way, I once had a rabbi at my wedding. When I married Ruth Ann Feder, who related to Jack and B. Fine, and Rabbi Berman was the rabbi at Bethel. And he went on and on about the Fine family and all they've done for Bethel and the community. And then he turned to my family and said, Goldsmiths, they pay their dues. Yes. Okay. Let us now continue. Boy, this is going to be a record. Page 20 for Aleinu. Page 20. Page 22 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Oh, I forgot to do the Did we do Mishaberach? No. We didn't do Mishaberach. Shall we do that first? I skipped right over it. That's on page 19. On our list here, Marty Cohen, Alyssa Freeman. You may be seated for this if you wish. Beth Levine, Rabbi Jerry Levy, Gene Sanders. Is there anyone else that you would like to? I'm sorry? Valerie Davis. Is she okay? Or My sister and brother-in-law, Deb in West Chapel, COVID. Joe Moses, COVID. Anyone else? No, I'll tell you, it is scary. At least the COVID that's going around now, I don't know anyone who has really seriously gotten it. They're not hospitalization. So at least maybe we should just get used to it. Anyhow, I want to say Misha Berach for those people who were injured in that terrible, terrible scene in Illinois. Those who, like that one boy, 8-year-old boy who has been paralyzed for life. Okay, Misha Berach, page 19, top. Misha Berach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach imotenu mekor habracha liavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And now let us turn to page 22 to the Mourner's Kaddish. Speaking of Jack and Bee Fine, one of their granddaughters passed away this week. I've only known her, Allison Fine, and I forgot her married name, like 35, 36 years old. And very sweet kid who's had a very difficult life. Is there anyone else that we wish to remember from the congregation? This is the yahrzeit of Eva Dorfman, the grandmother of Terry Crosby, Sam Kaddish, the husband of Sandy Kaddish, Dr. Sidney Pakula, father of Jerry Pakula, Saul Robbins, the great uncle of Alyssa Freeman, Sarah Sorky Simon, sister of David Levine. Are there anyone else that we wish to remember at this time? For sure. And by the way, you know that community in Illinois is a very Jewish community. There are a lot of Jews. It's a middle upper end bedroom community of Chicago, and there are lots of synagogues there. Not that it makes any difference. A life is a life, but still. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'yemru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei amaya. V'yishabah Viet Romam, Viet Nase, Viet Hadar, Viet Ale, Viet Halal, Shemei, de Kudashah, Barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da amiran bi'alma v'imru amen, Yehi Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mramav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. You may be seated. Who's doing announcements? Madam President? Okay. You can do that.
Oh, this one?
There you go.
I'm Lori Coulter. I'm new to ORME, and I'm new to the board, so. On Tuesday, July 12th, there's going to be an ORME Crafters, and that is going to be virtual at 7 p.m. And then next Friday, Rabbi Ahuva is going to be back in person and virtual for the July 15th Shabbat service. And then on Sunday, July 17th, is Real Theology Movie Night with The Promise at Dawn. And I didn't know if you wanted to mention that movie again, Ron.
Well, it's a favorite in Jewish film festivals, and it's a true story about a Jewish French World War II hero who later becomes one of the greatest novelists in France. It's very funny at times, unbelievable at times, and very moving at times. It's well worth seeing.
So thank you.
I would just like to thank David for leading the service tonight. We are really so fortunate at ORME to have so much talent. 2 weeks ago, Ron Friedman led the service. Last week, Stan Foyer led the service. So we're always in good hands when Rabbi Ahuva is away. And hopefully, she's just not spending a whole lot of time thinking about ORME. I know they've had a fabulous trip to Israel. She's posted a lot of pictures on Facebook, if you haven't seen them.
She could be watching.
Oh, she'll be watching, okay.
What time is it in Israel right now?
I don't know. Anyway, so thank you to the three of you for leading the services. We always are happy to have you here.
And I'd like to say something, because I've sort of I've gone from being an insider here to an observer, and I have to say, this congregation and you, Madam President, are doing a wonderful job during a very trying period in this congregation. So I just want to say, Mazel Tov, keep up the good work. Yasher Koach. And you paid off the mortgage. And you fixed the carpet. It's amazing. What would be really good for this congregation is let's keep that pandemic going. We've made such progress. No, truthfully and honestly, this is a time when, this really is a test of the congregation. And I think you're doing a great job. I really do. The only reason I don't come on Fridays, two reasons. Number one, this is the time I'd be with my family, my grandchildren, and that's precious time. And we do a Shabbat every week, and there's one favorite song. Shabbat is here, Shabbat is here. I'm so glad that Shabbat is here. Candles burning bright, it's Friday night. I'm so glad that Shabbat is here. And that's the closing hymn. No. Page 23, Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimramav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ye'er Adonai panav alecha v'yechunecha, Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yaseh lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift up his face to you and give you shalom. Shabbat shalom. Oh, there's Kiddush in the... is that the patio? Okay. Oh, hi. Do I know Fran? Yeah. Special, yeah. And I'm doing that now. I do all the services there now. And Fran, I knew. I worked with her when we were both at Beth Haba. And yeah. And what's your name? Ah. Oh. I didn't recognize you standing up. Probably. I was here on Yom Kippur afternoon service this past year, so which I thought was a good service. That was, but I'll be glad when this during. Thank you. Thank you.